Hello everyone, I'm Sakshi. I'm a second year physiotherapy student and welcome back to MEMONEET. So today we'll be discussing about this section A and section B for zoology part test 3. So as I've mentioned in my earlier video as well, in the part test, we'll focus mainly on the NCERT, but certain topics, certain questions, certain concepts will be based on topics which are not specifically direct lines or mentioned in the NCERT, but they were either present in the previous NCERTs or have been asked in PYQs or related concepts are required to have knowledge of the concepts that are actually mentioned because everything is indirectly internally linked. So without wasting any more time, let's understand. So starting with question number 151. So the first question, question number 151 for section A states that natural methods of contraception are the natural ways to what? Okay. Contraception and pregnancy, they are two opposite terms. What does contraception do? It is to prevent pregnancy, right? So now we don't want any pregnancy to occur. So how will there be no pregnancy? First is increase spermicidal activity. Will we want to kill the sperms for no pregnancy? Okay, but is that the only option? No. So what do contraceptive methods do? They prevent fertilization. So the sperm is there, the ovum is also there, but their fertilization is prevented. So the answer for this is it prevents fertilization. That is 151. Answer is option number 2. Next question for 152. Match the column. It's a match the column type of question. And we have to select the answer. So first is alpha-1 antitrypsin. So as we see, alpha-1 antitrypsin will be matched with emphysema, right? So why is it matched with emphysema? Because emphysema is a condition in which all the structures distal to the terminal bronchiole are destroyed. Okay. So we have primary bronchiole, secondary bronchiole, tertiary bronchiole, and bronchioles, right? And then so the terminal bronchioles, every structure distal to the terminal bronchiole has been destroyed. In emphysema, there's alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. What is alpha-1 antitrypsin? It is a proteinase. It is an antiprotease. So what happens in emphysema is the walls of the alveoli are being destroyed. They are being destroyed by the protease activity. So alpha-1 antitrypsin inhibits the protease activity, right? But in emphysema, what occurs is that alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency occurs, because of which the activity of the proteins increases and emphysema occurs. So we'll match antitrypsin. Alpha-1 antitrypsin is related with emphysema. So 1 goes with 3. Okay, let's see the other options as well. So the other options mentioned here are, so the options that we'll go with are 2 and 4, right? Because only they mentioned 1 and A and 3 together. Now, if we go to see, what else do we have? So we have ELISA. So ELISA is what? Let's see the answers. So ELISA is used in AIDS. Okay. So for testing AIDS, ELISA is used. For alpha-1 antitrypsin, it is emphysema. These are the correct answers. To match the options, it's C1. Therefore, answer number 2 is correct. Moving on to the third question, which is question number 153. Okay. So we again is the match the following type of question. So we have to see golden rice. First is golden rice. Since it's golden, we have to see that will be rich. Anything that has gold, anyone who possesses gold is said to be rich, right? So it's golden rice. So it is rich. Rich in what? Vitamin A. So it is A2. Let me mark this for y'all. So it's A2. Then we have botulinum toxin. Botulinum toxin comes under what? It is a cry protein, right? So it's B1. Now we have two options that are matching, A2 and B1, the first and second option. Then there's RNA interference. RNA interference is a part which helps in gene silencing, right? So RNA interference is involved in gene silencing. And Rosie. Rosie is the first transgenic cow. So the answer for this is option number 1. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to question number 154. Question number 154 asks us to find out the incorrect statements. Okay, so as mentioned in statement 1, human protein used to treat emphysema and is 1 antitrypsin. Is it true or false? So alpha-1 antitrypsin, as I mentioned in the earlier question, it is an enzyme, it's a protein, rather, as mentioned here. So it's a human protein to treat emphysema, right? It's correct because what alpha-1 antitrypsin does, it is an antiprotease. So in emphysema, the protease activity increases and digests the walls of the alveoli, right? We do not want that. So alpha-1 antitrypsin inhibits the activity of protease and prevents the digestion of the walls of the alveoli. Hence, it helps in preventing emphysema. or treating emphysema. So what is the incorrect option here? Incorrect option here is human insulin is being commercially produced from transgenic species of Agrobacterium tumeficans. Is it correct? No, it's not. Let me just go to the explanation so y'all can have a clearer view of what is the, yeah. So nowadays, recombinant human insulin is mainly produced either in E. coli or in Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So Agrobacterium tumeficans is wrong. Hence, the answer is option number 2. Next, the question is approximately how many varieties of rice are present in India alone? So India, as we know, is the agricultural land where like almost more than half the population is involved in agriculture, right? In the small towns and villages, etc. So there are estimated 2 lakh varieties of rice in India alone, which is option number 2. Then 156th question states that RNA interference involves what? So the answer is option number 2, where the option is silencing of specific mRNA due to complementary double-stranded RNA or dsRNA. So basically, if we see RNA interference as in bothering something, right? Or like stopping or hindering it. So we can rather call it silencing it. So like, don't interfere me, don't make me silent, right? We can say it that way. So silencing of specific mRNA. So in RNA interference, the mRNA is silent. Why? Because the presence of a double-stranded RNA. Okay, and this RNA interference takes place in eukaryotic organisms as a method of cellular defense. Next question is question 157. It is BT corn has been made resistant from corn borer disease by introduction of the gene. Which gene? So we can see that the proteins encoded by gene cry1AC and cry2AB control the cotton bollworms. That of cry1AB controls corn borer. Okay. So now if we go to say, just a second. Okay. So they've asked us corn has been resistant from corn borer by what? Right. So the answer is option number 1, that is cry1AB. When we introduce cry1AB into the corn, it becomes resistant from the corn borer. Okay. So this we need to remember this as it is. Moving to 158th question. Answer is option number 3, where it's the match the following type of question, where it says, okay, biopiracy matches with what? It is the illegal removal of biological materials. Then we have biopatent. Patent is basically rights, right? So biological patent is biological rights which are granted for biological entities. Then we have gene therapy, which is the effort to fix the non-functional gene. Obviously, therapy means they're talking about something, right? So, gene therapy is when there's a non-functional gene, we make efforts, we do methods to fix that by introduction of other genes. So the answer here is option number 3. Moving to 159th question. It is okay. So we know that for checking if AIDS is present or not in an individual, the method uses ELISA, right? So that is B matches with 1. There are 3 options where B matches with 1. Next, we know that one antitrypsin helps in preventing emphysema, right? Or helps in the treatment of emphysema, to be precise. So D matches with 3. There are 2 options where this is present: B1, D3. That's the first option and the fourth option. So let's see now. Forensic science and probe. Okay, so probe is what? Probe is a radioactive, right? So we need to remember it this way, that probes are radioactive, DNA or RNA. Hence the answer for this question will be option number 4. Moving to 160th question, given below are 4 statements pertaining to separation of DNA fragments using gel electrophoresis. Identify the correct statements. Okay, so the first statement states that DNA is a positively charged molecule, and so it is loaded on gel towards the anode terminal. Okay, so all anions go to anode. Anions are negatively charged. So, unlike charges attract, right? So, if anions are negatively charged, the anode has to be positively charged for it to go towards it. Here, they are saying that DNA is positively charged, so it is loaded on gel towards the anode. Is that statement correct? Let's see the explanation. Before that, let's check out all the options. Next is DNA fragments traveling along the surface of the gel whose concentration does not affect the movement of the DNA. So we need to check, does the concentration of gel affect the movement of DNA? Then we have to see, smaller the size of DNA fragment, larger is the distance traveled by it. And the last option is pure DNA can be visualized directly by exposing UV radiations. So the answer for this is option number 4, which is 1, 2, and 4 are the answers. What have they asked us? 4 statements, and we have to choose the incorrect one. So 1 is incorrect, 2 is incorrect, and 4 is incorrect. So all we need to know is that smaller the size of DNA fragment, the more distance it is traveled, right? So we can remember that small kids, they never get tired as well. They keep on going, 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 going. Because they're small in size, they travel the larger distance, is what we can remember. Okay. And as I said, the DNA is a positively charged molecule, so it is loaded on gel towards the anode terminal. It is wrong because here there are two same charges, like so they will not attract towards each other. Moving on to 161 question. Okay, you can also read the explanation for the 160th question mentioned here, which will solve out any further NCERT lines or queries that you may have. If not, if it doesn't get solved, you can always DM us. You can always DM us, drop a message in the YouTube comments, and we'll reply as soon as possible. 61, where it states given below are two statements. Statement 1 says in the year 1963, the 3 enzymes responsible for restricting the growth of bacteriophage in E. coli were isolated. We know that there were never 3 enzymes that were isolated. There were only 2 enzymes isolated, right? So this statement is wrong. In statement 2, it says the first restriction endonuclease, HIND 2, what is the first restriction endonuclease? I'm so sorry. So the first restriction endonuclease is hind 2. This statement is definitely correct. So the correct answer for this is statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. Moving to the next question. The specific sequence recognized by endonuclease is known as parallel sequence, palindromic sequence, polynucleotide sequence, or none of these. Okay, so the answer for this is palindromic nucleotide sequence. So basically, each restriction endonuclease has to cut, right? So each restriction endonuclease recognizes a specific palindromic nucleotide sequence. What is palindromic? It means something that reads the same from both sides. So if I have MA, if I have MAM, it'll read same forwards and backwards. So MAM, MAM. That's a palindromic sequence. When this sequence consists of various nucleotides, is known as a palindromic nucleotide sequence. Moving to question number 163. In polymerase chain reaction or PCR, there are main 3 steps which are repeated in several cycles. What is the correct sequence of those steps? Okay. So for this, the answer is option number 2. We can remember it as DAE. DAE. DAE, DAE. So that is denaturation, annealing, extension. Obviously, something gets denatured, then only it will be annealing, which means that it will get elongated, and then it will be extension, right? So it's denaturation, annealing, extension, DAE. So PCR, DAE. Next is 164. For the 164th question, we have the answer as 4, which is all of them. So let's see. Principles of biotechnology are first. Okay, so let's start with question number 165. Question number 165 asks us, the first restriction endonuclease isolated was. So, since we think it's first, so we'll always expect that the Roman numeral 1 should be present since it's first, right? But that's not the case. With restriction endonucleases, the first restriction endonuclease isolated is hind 2. So, if we just go by assumption in the NEET paper, it doesn't work because there are a lot of exceptions that exist in biology, especially, and chemistry as well. So now for question number 166, molecular scissors are what? Okay, so basically all of these are just basic NCERT lines, which everyone should know. So the statements in this paper are not very conceptual based. They are more over like you should know the exact thing that's present in the textbook. This is because in this part test, which focuses on high weighted chapter of class 12th, we've tried to focus more on the theoretical part rather than the conceptual part of it, since both of them have equal weightage, right? We should also know the theory as well as the concepts. So, in moreover, on the full test parts, we will focus on the concepts as well as the theory. But here, you'll find certain statements which you may feel at the moment are very easy and you're knowing all the answers. But under the pressure, under the stress, writing the paper in those 3 hours, trust me, I've given it. It's a really stressful situation if not handled well. So yeah, you may feel the simplest of questions and you may make mistakes. So please pay attention even to the easiest lines you may find and keep on revising. So now for question number 166, answer number 2, which is restriction endonucleases, also known as molecular scissors. So everyone knows this. Okay. Next is hind toe cuts DNA at a specific sequence of what? Which is answer number 3. Right. So it is found that hind toe always cut DNA molecules at a particular point by recognizing a specific sequence of 6 base pair. Now, this is something that some people may miss out. Everyone will know that hind toe restriction, it cuts the sequence of nucleotides, right? But some people may forget or may miss out or may skip to remember at what base pair. So it cuts it at the 6 base pairs. Moving to 168, the process, it's an assertion and reasoning type of question. So the process of fusion of a sperm with an ovum is called fertilization, correct? And the reasoning is that during fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum. So is this statement correct? So assertion and reasoning are correct, but reason is not the correct explanation of the assertion because it's called fertilization because during fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum and induces changes in the membrane that blocks the entry of additional sperm. So it's fertilization because, okay, as we know that only one sperm wins the race, right? If we call it in that way, in a more informal way to be precise. So only one sperm wins the race, which means if the ovum is fertilized by one sperm, no other sperms can enter into the zona pellucida, right? So there'll be changes in the membrane which block the entry of any additional sperms. That is known as fertilization. Moving to the next question. Question number 169. So it's the match the following type of question where the answer for 169th question is answer number 4. Answer number 4 is, let's see the options directly. So it's A3. Spermatogonia moves to 3, which is present on the inside wall of seminiferous tubules. Okay. So spermatogonia has a singular known as spermatogonium. It's present on the inside walls of seminiferous tubules and they multiply by mitotic division. Mitosis basically they keep on increasing in number arithmetically. Each spermatogonia is diploid and contains 46 chromosomes. Some are known as primary spermatocytes. Periodically, they undergo meiosis. Primary spermatocytes undergoes the first meiosis to form two equal haploid cells, which are known as secondary spermatocytes. Right. So when it undergoes meiosis, the chromosome number will become half. So spermatogonia becomes primary spermatocyte. Each primary by mitosis. Now each primary spermatocyte undergoes first meiosis and forms two secondary spermatocytes, which have half the number of chromosomes. Now, the secondary spermatocytes undergo a second meiotic division to form 4 haploid spermatids, right? So, its spermatogonia forms a primary spermatocyte by mitosis. Then, primary spermatocyte forms secondary spermatocyte by meiosis 1. Each secondary spermatocyte forms other 2 spermatids by meiosis 2. So, the answer is option number 4. Let's see the next question. The ovaries are located one on each side of the dash. Each ovary is about dash in length and is connected to the pelvic wall and dash by ligaments. Okay. So we can see ovaries are located on one side in the groin, in the lower abdomen, in the pelvis, or in the abdomen. So the answer for this is option number 2, which is lower abdomen. Right. So obviously ovaries are not present in the abdomen or the groin. They are present in the lower abdomen. Each ovary is 2 to 4 centimeters in length and it's connected to the pelvic wall and the uterus by ligaments. Now we have question number 171. So the endometrium undergoes dash during menstrual cycle, while the dash exhibits strong dash during delivery of the baby. So endometrium undergoes what? It undergoes steady growth, sporadic changes, cyclical changes, or rapid expansion. So basically, it undergoes cyclical changes because we know that menstrual cycle, it's a cycle where the endometrium undergoes various changes. Since menstruation is a cycle, which is known as menstrual cycle, endometrium will undergo cyclical changes. So that's the first blank. Next will be while the myometrium exhibits strong contraction. So what happens? Endometrium is the layer, right? So endometrium and myometrium. Myometrium is the outer layer, endometrium is the inner layer. Endometrium exhibits changes, cyclical changes. It becomes thick, it becomes thinner, it sheds for what? For implantation and fertilization process to occur. And the myometrium does what? After fertilization has occurred, the baby is about to be delivered. So myometrium will undergo contraction. Okay. Now, next question, 172. Spermatogenesis starts at the age of dash due to significant increase in secretion of dash. So, spermatogenesis starts at puberty. So, basically, the spermatogenesis, spermato means sperms, genesis means production. So, spermatogenesis means production of sperms starts when at puberty due to significant increase in the GnRH, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is option number 2. Moving to question number 173. Yeah. So we have to select the correct sequence for transport of sperm cells in the male reproductive system. So let's just study one correct sequence and remember only that instead of focusing on all the other options, which may cause confusion. So the answer is option number 3, which is this. So let's see. First, seminiferous tubules. The sperms are formed as seminiferous tubules. Then they enter the reattempt. After entering the reattempt, they go to the vasa efferentia. First is efferentia, then is deferentia. Then it goes to the vasa efferentia, then epididymis, then vasa deferens or vasa deferentia, then ejaculatory duct, urethra, urethral meatus, and then they are coming out of the body. Okay. So again, seminiferous tubules go into the reattempt, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vasa deferens or vasa deferentia, ejaculatory duct, urethra, urethral meatus. Okay, so moving on to question number 174. We have to match the following. So first is heroin. Heroin is what? The answer for 174 is option number 2. So let me just mark it. Yeah. So heroin is what? It is chemically diacetyl morphine, which is white, colorless, white, odorless, bitter, crystalline compound. Then we have cocaine. Cocaine is used for what? It is third, which is excessive dosage of cocaine causes hallucination. Then we have morphine. Morphine, as everyone knows, morphine is given after surgery, during surgeries. Okay, that's the painkiller. So, pain reliever rather. So, morphine is very useful in patients who undergone surgery. And nicotine, you've also heard that nicotine patches are given, right? So, nicotine stimulates the adrenal gland to release adrenaline and noradrenaline into the blood circulation. Okay, so for question number 175, you have to see that Plasmodium enters the human body as dash through the bite of infected dash. So as we can see, the answer number is answer 2, which is it enters the body as sporozoid and through the bite of infected female Anopheles mosquito. Now we have 176th question. Dash represents one such group of viruses which causes one of the most infectious human ailments, the common cold. Okay, so the answer for this, everyone must be knowing about this. The answer for this is answer 1, which is rhinovirus. Rhinovirus causes common cold, right? So rhinovirus is common cold. We can remember it as rhinitis. Rhina in any medical term refers to nose. Okay. So when it's rhinitis, you have inflammation inside the nose. Similarly, if it's rhinoviruses, it represents one group of viruses which causes common cold. Moving to okay, so for question number 177, the other question stated is many fungi belong to the genera dash, trichophyton, and dash are responsible for ringworms, which is one of the most common infectious diseases in man. So the answer for this is the third option. The third option is microsporum and epidermophyton. So for microsporum, the genera is microsporum, trichophyton, and epidermophyton. We can always remember like both these phytons will come together. So trichophyton, epidermophyton, they're both responsible for ringworms. This is also an NCERT statement. I cannot explain much in this because it's just a fact. Still, if there are any other doubts around about the topic, please drop us a message. In question number 178, virus-infected cells secrete proteins called dash, which protect non-infected cells from further viral infections. Obviously, we know what this is. I think all of you have already given yourselves marks for this. Okay, so it's interferons. Interferons are what? Interferons basically cytokine barriers. Virus-infected cells secrete proteins called interferons. So viruses secreting proteins. The proteins are called interferons, which protect the non-infected cells from further viral infections. If anyone didn't know this, it's really an important statement. So please remember. Next question, 179. So in question number 179, we have Widal test or Widal test. We call it Widal test, carried out to test what? Okay. So it's used for typhoid fever. Next is 180. An ideal contraceptive should be what? It should be user-friendly, easily available, effective, and interfering coitus, and expensive and effective. Obviously, now if we see, it should be effective. That's the first point. It should be user-friendly. It should be easily available. Should it be expensive or inexpensive? Okay. So now, obviously, if it's idle and we want more people to use it, then it needs to be inexpensive, right? So the fifth option is eliminated. And also, shouldn't interfere with coitus. No man-made item should interfere with any natural process. Okay. So an ideal contraceptive, which is man-made, should not interfere between the natural process of coitus. So the answer is 1, 2, and 3 statements are correct. That is, ideal contraceptives should be user-friendly, easily available, and effective. Okay, in question number 181, find out sexually transmitted diseases among the following: AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, malaria, hepatitis, and hepatitis B and TB. So now if you see malaria, obviously is not sexually transmitted. We know how malaria spreads by mosquitoes, right? Next is TB. Is TB sexually transmitted? Think over it. So TB is communicable. It's not sexually transmitted. So TB is also eliminated. We have AIDS. AIDS is sexually transmitted because it spreads through body fluids. Syphilis, again through body fluids. Gonorrhea is sexually transmitted disease. And hepatitis B as well is a sexually transmitted disease. Next is 182. High increase in human population is due to what? Increase in the average lifespan. Obviously, if one person who used to live for 50 years is now living for 80 years on an average, if all the people who are living for 50 years now start living for 80 years, so increase in average lifespan will obviously increase the population because more people are going to be born, but lesser people are dying as well, right? Why is this happening? Due to better medical facilities. That's the second option. Third, obviously, lesser people are dying, as I said. So there's decrease in death rate. So all of these are factors which will contribute to increase in population. For 183 question, choose the whose statement about reproductive health. First, healthy reproductive organ with normal functions. What is reproductive health basically? So healthy reproductive organs with normal functions. Second, total well-being of physical, emotional, behavioral, and social aspects. Third, free of all STDs. Agar we are free of all STDs, is that going to make us like good in reproductive health? What does who say? So only option number 2 is correct. Basically, if a person is said to be reproductively healthy, what should it have? Like, what are the characteristics of the person who's reproductively healthy? There should be total well-being of physical, emotional, behavioral, and social aspects. Next question number 184. The technique called gamete intrafallopian transfer, or short abbreviated as GIFT, is recommended for females who cannot do what? So the answer for 184 is 1, who can't produce an ovum. Okay. We can simply think of it as किसी को gift दे रहे हैं, right? So if you're gifting someone something, basically, if I'm a female who cannot produce an ovum, so what I'll expect or what I'll wish for is an ovum from someone else, right? So I'll expect it as a gift. So that is gamete intrafallopian transfer. This is a method to remember it. So the gamete in this case will be the ovum. Intrafallopian, which means that the ovum is transferred from one female to another inside the fallopian tube of the female who is expecting the ovum, because she cannot produce one. Moving on to question number 185. Choose the correct option A, B, C, D in this diagram. So let's see. Yeah. So as we can see, the answer for 185 is answer number 3. That is, A is vasectomy. This whole, obviously, now we need to first identify the organs. So now if we see this organ and this organ, okay. So this is the male reproductive system. This is the female reproductive system. That's what we need to identify first. So if now we can see this as ligation, right? Oh, let me just 1 second. Okay. So this is the male reproductive organ. This is the female reproductive organ, right? Now in the male reproductive organ, this that we see is ligation here. And in the female reproductive organ, where we see ligation is over here, right? So now this is the vas deferens, right? And these are the testes. Testis, vas deferens, and ligation. Okay. So we can see that there's ligation in the male reproductive system, which occurs in case of vasectomy. And ligation in the female reproductive system occurs in case of tubectomy. Now we have to see the C option, which is ligation where in the vas deferens. Okay, so the C is vas deferens, and D points out to what? These are the fallopian tubes, right? So the fallopian tube here is cut and it's tight, and in this case, the vas deferens is cut and tight. That's all. Just a second. So yeah, so the answer is option number 3. Moving on to the section B of zoology. I hope everything is just going well. So yeah, moving on to section B. Uh, okay, so let's go with question number 186. It's a master following type of question where we can see first is oogenesis. So oogenesis is a process, right? Where what happens? Oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage, right? So A4, there's only one option which has A as 4. So the correct answer is option number 1. So let's still review all the other mentioned options here. So the primary follicle, what is primary follicle? It is surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells. Then it becomes a secondary follicle. What happens in a secondary follicle? Surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells and a new theca is formed. And then primary oocytes, what happens? They start division and enter into prophase 1 of the meiotic division. Okay, so the answer is option number 1. Please ignore the answer mentioned here. There has been some technical errors, typing mistake, and which has caused a wrong answer to be printed here. So moving to the next question. Okay, so for the 187th question, it's an assertion and reasoning type of question where the assertion is DNA is transferred into E. coli. This is known as transformation. This is correct. Reasoning is DNA polymerase enzymes are used to make multiple copies. Yes, this is correct. But is the reasoning the explanation for the assertion? No. So the answer is option number 1, which is both assertion and reasoning are correct, but reasoning is not the correct explanation for the assertion. For 188 question, okay. So now we have to select the correct order. So the correct order is answer number 3, which is CDBA. So first cells are treated with divalent cations. Then we add recombinant DNA with the cell on ice. Okay. Then what happens? We place on 420 degrees Celsius and then keep it on ice. And then DNA will enter the cell. Then the answer is next question is 189, which is on the basis of function, which of the following is known as bioscissors. Okay, now you all must be knowing this. Restriction endonuclease, molecular scissors, bioscissors. So the answer is 1, which is endonuclease. Moving to 190, which is the following is a palindromic sequence. As I mentioned, palindromic sequence are statements which read the same both forward and backward. So if you have the word MAM, it's M-A-M forward and M-A-M backwards. So we can see that the let's see all the correct options. So answer number option number 1 is correct. Option number 2 is correct. Option number 3 is also correct. So hence the answer is all of these. Okay. Now if we go to say CTC GAG, and if okay, so sorry, we need to read it forward to backward. I'm sorry. So we have it as GAG CTC, and here also we have GAG CTC. Here we have ta ta ta. Here also we have ta ta ta. Here we have GAATTC, GAATTC. So all of the options are correct. In 191, given below are two statements. One is able assertion, one is reasoning. Again, the assertion is ADA deficiency disorder is caused due to deletion of genes for adenosine deaminase. Okay. So yes, ADA deficiency, which is adenosine deaminase deficiency, is caused due to deletion of genes. The reasoning is gene therapy is a collection of methods that do not allow correction of gene defect that has been diagnosed in a child or embryo. So is it correct? No. So there has been some printing error here as well. So the one here will be A. So assertion and reasoning. So now assertion is also correct as ADA is caused due to deletion of genes. But the reasoning is not correct because gene therapy is a collection of methods that allow correction of gene defect. Why would it be called therapy if it doesn't allow, right? So it allows correction of gene defect that has been diagnosed. So assertion is correct, reasoning is not correct. Okay, so for question number 193, what we have is the Graafian follicle ruptures to release the secondary oocyte from the ovary by the process called ovulation. And the second statement is the secondary follicle changes into the mature or Graafian follicle. So first we'll have a primary follicle, which will change into a secondary follicle, which then changes into the tertiary follicle, and that changes into a mature Graafian follicle. So the statement 2 becomes wrong. And for statement 1, now the Graafian follicle will release the secondary oocyte, and this is known as ovulation. So statement 1 is true, but statement 2 is false. Then for 194, the difference between spermiogenesis and spermiation is what? So let's see the answer mentioned here, which is option number 4. So in spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed, while in spermiation, spermatozoa are released from the Sertoli cells into the cavity of the seminiferous tubules. So here the same thing is mentioned. The formation of spermatozoa from spermatids is known as spermiogenesis, and then release is known as spermiation. Same way as its ovulation, so also spermiation. Okay, next we have 195, which is interstitial cell is present in the region outside the seminiferous tubules called interstitial spaces. It's again an assertion reasoning type of question. So this is correct because interstitial cells are present outside seminiferous tubules in a region called interstitial spaces. And interstitial cells provide nutrition to the Sertoli cells. Yes. So the assertion is correct. Is it or is it not? So the reason is correct. The assertion is also correct, but they are not interrelated. Okay. So now the answer mentioned here is the same. The regions outside seminiferous tubules called interstitial spaces contain small blood vessels and interstitial cells. They produce testosterone. Right. Now we have 196. Again, an assertion reasoning type of question where it said that active immunity is slow and takes time to give its full effective response. And the reason is injecting of microbes deliberately during immunization or infectious organisms. Okay. So we have the answer as option number 2, which is assertion and reason are correct, but reason is not the correct explanation for the assertion. So the assertion is that active immunity is slow, right? Why? Because and it takes time to give its full response. Correct. Now, if the reasoning is injecting of microbes deliberately during immunization or infectious organisms, when a host, let's see the explanation here, when a host is exposed to antigens, which may be in the form of living or dead, antibodies are produced in the body. This type of immunity is called active immunity. So whenever we get infected by any disease, active immunity acts, right? Active immunity is slow and it takes time to give its full effective response. Inject now, if you want passive immunity, so what will we do? We are not getting attacked by something, but we are deliberately inserting it into our bodies. So injecting the microbes deliberately during immunization, gaining access to the body during natural infection induces active immunity. So basically, both of them are active immunity. One is naturally acquired, one is artificially acquired. Okay. So passive immunity is something that occurs through a secondary process, but active immunity occurs through naturally, which is when you're directly getting infected by some disease or by an organism, and it occurs artificially when you're artificially deliberately inducing something. Okay, so the answer is option number 2, which is assertion is correct, reason is correct, but the reason is not the correct explanation. For 197th question, which of the following is incorrect? So the incorrect answer is option number 4, that preparation of activated pathogens are introduced into the body in vaccination. Okay. So vaccination or immunization is a process in which preparation of antigenic proteins or pathogens which are inactivated and introduced into the body. So while reading this during the exam, people will naturally skip it in like while reading it quickly and नहीं पता चलेगा कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो. But preparation of activated pathogen. Why will someone introduce activated pathogens? If you wanted activated pathogens, then we might as well have fallen ill only. No. So that's wrong. So it's inactivated. Then question number 198. Immunosuppressants are administered to burn patients or during organ transplantation to suppress what? So it's basically to suppress their cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity or cell-mediated immune response needs to be suppressed because during immunosuppression occurs by giving immunosuppressants. So during organ transplantation, what happens is that if I'm getting an organ transplanted, so I'll get an organ from someone else's body who will also have antigens, who my body's antibodies will attack, right? So, and the organ will get rejected, which is not what I want. So, I will try to suppress my body's antibodies by using immunosuppressants. So, my body will easily be able to accept the foreign transplant in this case. Ovulation is expected in a normal menstrual cycle. When? So this is the 200th question. So we can say that on the 12th to 14th day of the menstrual phase, ovulation occurs. Ovulation is releasing of the ovum during the menstrual phase. Okay. So yeah, that's where we've discussed all the questions of this part test. That is part test number 3, zoology section. If there's anything that I can help you guys with, please let me know on Instagram or on Telegram, or you can also email us for the same. You can also drop your questions in the comment section below. If there's anything that I've missed out on in this test while going through the paper, please let me know as well. Also, if you notice any technical glitches that occur, please comment and we'll try to solve them as soon as possible. Okay, thank you so much and all the best. Hoping that whenever all of these test series are over, after the part test, focusing on the full test, we hope that after NEET, and I'm hoping that after NEET, all of you have performed well and we have a lot of doctors among us. Thank you so much.